Why, I'd even added a child to the family. Yes, Rose was a daughter, but I'd have been happy to try for an heir if Reggie had cared enough. But pleasant memories aside, day-to-day life with this family had become intolerable. It was time to move on. "Will that do, my lady?" I placed the photograph back on the table and took a quick glance at the mirror. Then a much longer look. "Goodness, that's quite a sculpture you've created." Bridget pursed her lips. "You're wearing a fashionable gown, and you need a fashionable hairstyle to match." She gave me a firm nod that told me I'd better not argue. "It's just so tall." "The extra height will give you courage." That clinched it. "Thank you, Bridget. It's perfect." I glanced at the clock on the dressing table. "It's too early for me to go down, but you should go to your dinner. I'll just stay up here and gather some more belongings." With a curtsy, she left. I let my gaze travel over the room. What should I take with me when I move out? And what would my in-laws insist belonged to the manor? Considering I'd been dreaming of this move for almost a year, I'd done little actual planning. In the back of my mind, I feared living on my own might be just beyond my financial reach, and I'd have to give up the idea as a foolish dream. Bridget alone knew of my plans, as she'd travelled with me to London last week under the vague guise of business. In my 3-day trip, I'd met with my solicitor, who scheduled appointments with an estate agent who showed me 5 homes, 4 of which were definitely out of my reach. But one was perfect. And in that moment, I realized I could actually do this, assuming I could get past my in-laws' objections. I'd sworn Bridget to secrecy, but wouldn't be at all surprised if several of the servants already knew. So Graham and Delia would have to be told before someone let it slip. I blinked a few times. Heavens, it was dark in here. Stepping over to the bedside table, I turned up the wick on the paraffin lamp. Better. Between the lamp and the fire in the grate, the room now had a warm glow. Obviously, my personal things would come with me. Clothing and jewelry. I scanned the dressing table. Silver-backed brush, comb and mirror. Crystal bottles and atomizers. Their ownership was indisputable. I turned around and gazed at the large 4-poster bed and its beautiful carved rosewood head and footboards. I'd miss it, but trying to lay claim to this bed, which I'd paid for, would cause far more trouble than it was worth. I ran my hand across the smooth silk coverlet. That was coming with me. The sound of voices interrupted my inventory. Someone was speaking in my brother-in-law's study, located directly below my room, and the volume was increasing. I stood still as I waited, listening to the muffled words, for the sound of my name. There it was. Of course they were talking about me. They were always talking about me. I moved to the other side of the bed and drew back the corner of the ancient Aubusson carpet along the wall, revealing a 6-inch hole in the floor. This hole led to a corresponding one in the wall of Graham's study, complete with metal tubing. The holes were left from an attempt at installing gas lines to the family rooms of the house, aborted when the workmen learned Graham would be paying them late, if ever. As a result, the house retained its chill, but the holes made for an excellent listening device. Graham had hung a picture of his sons over that hole, but it made little difference to the quality of the sound. It was quite an accomplishment to lower myself to my knees in the narrow skirt of my gown. Yes, I know, a lady has no business eavesdropping on the conversations of others, but I looked on this as a method of self-defense. Over the last year, Graham and Delia, my brother-in-law and his wife, had hatched an endless number of schemes, which always involved the use of my funds. So when they spoke about me, I listened. Forewarned is forearmed. I leaned closer to the hole, wrinkling my nose against the musty edge.